Ooh, they needed that one, didn't they? Didn't we need that one? Okay, Thursday night. Eagles, of course, get the win 34-27 at historic Lambeau Field to go to 2-2 on the season. Yes, I know I'm not filming from my normal spot in the man cave at the Mighty Kingdom, but I am actually at my dad's house today dog sitting because my dad and stepmom are out. They asked me if I can come up and dog sit, and the dog Pamina is very worried because rightful owners aren't here. But anyhow, besides that, I thought I would go ahead and take this time to do a little video as I usually do after Eagles games and break it down as best I can. It was a big relief that they won that game. Obviously, it was just it was a game that had some more injuries for the Eagles, of course, defensively. Sidney Jones goes down. Avonte Maddox goes down with a scary-looking injury. It turns out he's going to be okay, which is the good news. The bad news, though, is they continue to be thin in the secondary. Obviously, of course, without players such as Jalen Mills and Crevion LeBlanc and others. Now you lose Sidney Jones and Maddox. Of course, Ronald Darby was hurt. The Eagles, though, are 13-3, I believe, without Ronald Darby in games. So I don't know what that says about Ronald Darby. But we know we've had some issues all season long in the secondary, covering receivers. It's been an epidemic all season long, I should say, and it continued on Thursday night. Davante Adams goes off over 100 yards receiving. He got hurt late in the game too with a apparent toe injury, so that may have helped there at the end for the Eagles in the red zone, where the Packers really struggled. And even before Davante Adams goes out, they really struggled offensively in the red zone. I mean, and that is the model for the Jim Schwartz defense, right? You're going to give up, the yards and such between the 20s, but once you get in that red zone, that's where the defense is going to tighten up and hope to prevent touchdowns and hold the field goals or get turnovers, as we saw late in the game. So the Eagles, for the most part, did a good job. I mean, yes, they gave up a lot of yards, and Aaron Rodgers was doing discount double-check things. But at the end of the day, I mean, the Packers offense, which is a new offense with new head coach there, LaFleur, but once they get in the red zone, the troubles really ensue. And I know the Packers didn't run the ball in the red zone, and that's something, and really along the goal line, and that's something that, they've come under fire for after the game. Why didn't they try to hand the ball off at least once, in that series? Well, the issue here for the Packers, and this is where the Eagles defense, as much as they've been, beleaguered for not, stopping the pass, they have been very stout against the run all year long. And that's something that we've grown accustomed to, haven't we, over the past how many seasons now? The Eagles do have a very good run defense, and it continued on Thursday night. I know their starting running back, Williams, got hurt early in the game, but still, the Eagles were really good against the run, to the fact that the Packers' leading rusher was their quarterback. And look, Aaron Rodgers can still move, but he was the leading rusher for the Packers. The Eagles mitigated the run to the point where the Packers, when they got in the red zone, and Packer fans can still split hairs about it. They should have still tried to run the ball. But the fact is, the Packers were feeling, we can't run the ball. Let's put the ball in our best player's hands in number 12 and let him make a play. And to the Eagles' credit, there were times in there that they were able to make those stops and hold the Packers. And really on their last two possessions for the Packers in the red zone, what happened? Four downs, couldn't get in the red zone, turnover on downs, Eagles got the ball. Second time in the red zone, it was an interception that closed out the game. So give the Eagles defense a lot of credit in those situations where they were able to keep the Packers away from points. And realistically, 2 turnovers in the red zone. The one is the turnover on downs on fourth down, the non-conversion, and then on the second down play, gained the turnover on the interception in the end zone by Bradham. So that was great, and the Eagles defense closed out the game. after the offense couldn't. And I know, there's still, you hear, the third and 5, Carson couldn't make the throw. Well, that might be true, but again, it's a team, and it was a team effort win. Special teams did a great job. Defense, I know they gave up yards and they gave up 27 points, but at the end of the day, anytime wins should never be taken for granted, right? And particularly road wins. I don't care who you're playing. You could be playing a horrible team. It's still a road win. And the Packers coming into that game were 3-0. And in September games, Aaron Rodgers has a stellar record at Lambeau Field. And also the fact that the Packers going into that game had never lost a Thursday night game at home at Lambeau Field. But on the flip side of it, Doug Peterson, has never lost a Thursday night game as well. Carson Wentz hasn't lost a Thursday night game. In a few Thursday night games he's played, Nick Foles played the others. But Carson still remains undefeated, and Doug Peterson still remains undefeated on Thursday night. The Packers, though, that streak snapped. So someone was going to lose their streak. And I'm glad as an Eagles fan that it was the Packers. So you got to give a lot of credit. Let's give a little clap here. Round of applause and credit for the Eagles defense for stepping up when they had to there at the end. And then, yes, holding a 7-point lead, a 1-touchdown lead against the Packers, and being able to come away from in that game with the W and getting the 34-27 win. With the defense, again, made plays there at the end. We can, you can split hairs about the play calling, for LaFleur and the Packers there in that situation, but who's to say if they hand the ball off that they get it anyhow? The Eagles defense, really good against the run, and it continued on Thursday night. And that's without, guys, not on that defensive line, in the middle of that defensive line out. So you got to give a lot of credit there to the Eagles D-line for making some plays. And speaking of making plays, give credit for the Eagles. Obviously, the two guys that were responsible for the biggest turnover in Super Bowl 52, responsible for a pretty big turnover there before the end of the first half, it was mixed reversals, though, this time, role reversed, because this time it was Derek Barnett getting the strip sack and Brandon Graham getting the fumble recovery, whereas, of course, in Super Bowl 52, it was Brandon Graham getting the strip sack and Derek Barnett coming away with the fumble recovery. So the two key players from the big fumble in Super Bowl 52 were a big part of the were that turnover on this, and in a big part of the game too. The Eagles were up by a slight lead, and that turnover allowed them to go up by more with the ensuing touchdown. Speaking of round of applause, give some applause to the Eagles coaching staff, Doug Peterson. I know it was a short week. And sometimes, after a short week with preparation, you keep it simple. And we've been screaming about this all season long. Why aren't they running the ball more? Why aren't they getting Jordan Howard involved more? Well, on Thursday night, they did both of that. They ran the ball with success. And the Packers defense, you can run against them. And this is one of the things that I said before that Atlanta game. You can run on this defense. I know the Eagles are behind, but you can run on this defense. This offensive line has a chance to assert their dominance against an undersized Falcons defensive line. You can run on this team, and they didn't do it enough, right? Even in the loss of the Lions, didn't really, have a balanced attack. Didn't really assert that running game. And I know that Miles Sanders fumbled a couple times, but at the same time, didn't try to really mix in more Jordan Howard in that game. Well, here we are. Jordan Howard, like the Lions, went up against a familiar opponent from his days with the Bears and the Packers, and he had an awesome game, over 100 yards. Total offense, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, and the second one, that second effort, and that's what you're going to get out of Jordan Howard, and a receiving touchdown as well. Miles Sanders, I think, rebounded with a nice game, nice return on special teams, and that really set the Eagles' offense up. At that point, it was, I believe, a 10-0 game, and that was a big return there, and that kind of spooked the Packers, because after that return, the very next kickoff that they had went out of bounds for a penalty. So that was a big return there. And there again, total team effort, total team win, because they got it done on special teams as well. Miles Sanders had a nice game. Jordan Howard had a really great game. And the fact is, and I do give credit to the coaching staff, you remembered he was on the team. And you used him. It was great. And he took over that game, for a time there. Packers had no answers for Jordan Howard. They had no answers for this Eagles offensive attack. when they really started getting rolling. And speaking of round of applause, I think we all should give a round of applause to the Eagles' O-line. Yes, they were much maligned after that loss in Atlanta, the last time they had a road game during the season. But against the Packers, no sacks against, no turnovers, and they controlled the line of scrimmage. They controlled that battle that you have to win as an offense against a defense. And the Packers coming into this game had a pretty stout defense. Not a lot of points given up till Thursday night. They really, they got a lot of turnovers on the season until Thursday night. And a lot of that credit you have to give to the Eagles O-line. They really did a great job winning the point of attack right off the snap, pushing the Packers defenders back, opening up holes that any running back could have ran through. But certainly Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard were able to take full advantage of that, and that's a big reason why the Eagles were able to get this W. Now, to win on the road, sometimes you just have to be tougher. You have to be tougher than your opponent. You have to be tougher than the elements at times. You have to be tougher than the fan bases at times. You have to assert your dominance on the road and win those one-on-one battles up front, and that's exactly what the Eagles' offensive line did. Sayamalu had a terrific game. Bounced back after a tough one after the Falcons on that Sunday night game some weeks ago, and that was an awful performance. And I thought the last 2 weeks he's played pretty good. Peters, Kelsey up front, of course, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, who's been a rock all season long. Absolutely terrific performance, and this is the type of performance that we expect this offensive line to have. And I know every week you can't expect this, but they're good enough, they're that good enough, and they're not posing nude on ESPN's body issue. They're that good enough to assert their dominance and win at the point of attack and win these games. And a great job by the O-line, great job by Carson, great job by the running backs, great job by the receiver. By the way, nice to see Alshon back, right? Nice to see a number one receiver on the field. He had a nice game in his return, scored a touchdown, and really makes a big difference when you have a receiver that you know you can depend on. The old reliable, right? Veteran receiver, has played at Lambeau Field many a time in the past, his days with the Bears. So certainly, it was good to see him back. Hopefully we get Djax back. I don't know exactly when. I'm hoping maybe next Sunday against the Jets, but we'll see. Mr. Aguilar really wasn't involved. And look, to have a total all-around offense, you need to have that balance. But I will say this, Nelson Aguilar is a better receiver in the slot than he is outside. And I do hope once they get Djax back, that Aguilar can go back to being that slot receiver. I know he's had the drops. He's Mr. Butterfingers. We all know this. But I do think he serves a purpose on this offense as a slot receiver when you have your full complement of receivers, and that means getting Djax back. Speaking of getting guys, I will still beat the drum on getting Jalen Ramsey. I've said this before. I made a whole video of this before. The fact is that this is needed more than ever. You're having every week, it seems, another cornerback is going down with injury. They're already thin. And even when they're playing, there's been trouble. And we know this with Darby, with Sidney Jones. I mean, when the Packers are moving pretty good, Sidney Jones got beat on a play by Adams. He got run over by a running back on the Packers touchdown early in the game. And I know he got hurt, and it is what it is with the hamstring. But, again, Jalen Ramsey, to me, it's a must-get for Howie. Howie's got to get this done. I understand that the Jaguars are holding all the cards here, and they're going to want this and they're going to want that. I still think this is an opportunity for Howie to make this move. It doesn't just help this season, but it will help for the next foreseeable future, because I do believe they're not going to make this move if they're not going to lock the guy up, okay? Because you're not going to give up what it's going to take to give up just to have him for basically a rental for the rest of the season. So they're definitely going to, show him the money, right? They're going to do that. They're going to take care of him and lock him up for the foreseeable future. He's still a young corner league. I believe, 24? So, I mean, certainly he's a guy that fulfills a need that this team has had for a number of years, but also going forward. And I will say this, give credit where credit is due. When Rasul Douglas matched up against Devontae Adams didn't do that much. It was when he was lined up against Maddox and Jones earlier in the game. That's when he was really taking off. So when Rasul was on him, not the numbers that he was having. And I do question why Jim Schwartz didn't just keep Rasul on him the whole game. Have him shadow Devontae Adams the rest of the game. It seemed Rasul was on the one side and kind of stayed there. He did have some success against Adams. Why not, just have him shadow him? I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a gripe. I get it. It's after a win. But at the same time, I do question that. I mean, if you have one corner that's physical, that's a bigger corner that can match up against Adams, why not have him shadow the Packers' number one receiver? It is what it is. It's one of those things. I mean, Schwartz isn't known for doing that, but I think that was a game that maybe you may have thought about it after the first half. It is what it is. But, again, it's a win. It's a gripe, I know, after a win, but it is. It is one of those things that I'm sitting there, and I know Troy Aikman was saying it during the game too. Why isn't I'm surprised that number 32 isn't covering Adams at this point. But it is what it is. What can you do about that? But a good game by Rasul, and a good game, again, by the Eagles defense, closing it out, even with the injuries, even with being paper thin in the secondary. They made a play when they had to make the play at the end and get that big turnover. And look, I mean, Rodgers, he's not going to do that very often. So it was great to see. And look, I mean, it was one of those games that you had the heart in the throat there at the end. And, oh, my God, here we go. And, but it was great to see them finish it off. Much needed win. I mean, look, 2-2, is it great? No, but it's much better than it would have been at 1-3, where it really would have been tough, because that's 3 conference losses too. If they would have lost that game, it's 3 conference losses. This is also a potential tiebreaker situation if the Eagles and Packers finish with a similar record, and also if the Packers can do the Eagles a favor and beat Dallas in a few weeks. That's a head-to-head competition. That's a head-to-head win for the Eagles against the Packers. If Dallas loses that game, it's a head-to-head. Look, now I know the Eagles lost to the Lions. We'll see what Dallas does against the Lions. But, that was a head-to-head win against the Packers, which was a really good win for the Eagles. And again, anytime you can win at historic, Lambeau Field, and a team that's 3-0 coming into that game, it's a good win. And like I said before, every time everyone thinks the Eagles are going to lose a game, they find a way to win. Kind of worries me about next week. Because every time everyone's like, oh, the Eagles are going to win this game, then they don't. Like against the Lions, most everyone thought we were going to get a win that week, and it didn't happen. Then everyone thought we were going to have a loss that didn't happen either. I had a feeling the Eagles could win that game. It's one of those things. It's almost like they go back to that mentality. This team is so resilient. It's like they go back to that underdog mentality, right? And they kind of bring that back, and it gets them up for it, and they find a way to get a win. Is it going to happen every week? Probably not. But, it was good to see that, that Thursday night. And look, they earned that victory. They played a heck of a game. Offensively after a struggle to start, and we've seen struggling starts for not so much against Detroit, but for those 2 previous weeks. So it was good to see them find their offense, and it did take a nice return on special teams by Sanders to really jumpstart it. And then you saw it from the rest that point on, the rest of the game. The Eagles' offense was just basically shot out of the cannon after that return. Again, great job to get Jordan Howard into the offense. That was good. And a great game by Howard. Carson, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on the game. And, again, error-free. That is another way that you get a big win on the road in primetime, television when you don't turn the ball over. And the Eagles won the turnover battle. Packers turned it over twice, including the most costly one at the end. Eagles, no turnovers in the game, not one. And that's a big reason why they won this game. So a great win for the Birds, 34-27, again, the final from Lambeau Field. I'm sorry I couldn't make this video sooner. Obviously, Thursday night, it was kind of tough to film right after that. Just watching the post-game stuff and everything. I heard the Eagles fans booing Michael Irvin. That was... the Dallas sucks chants and all that was good. Hey, it's the only time the Eagles are going to be on Thursday Night Football this season. So, Eagle fans that showed up and, took the trip to Lambeau, or maybe you got Wisconsin Eagle fans there, or Midwest Eagles fans there that made the way there. And, their voices were heard during the game, and their voices were certainly heard after the game when they were interviewing Carson there and the stage set up and everything, and the Eagles fans were there, and, with the banners and everything, and every time Michael Irvin came on, that was great. That's certainly, that's one of the reasons that this fan base, this fan base gets it, and they certainly get the moment. We always know how to make the moment, And Steve Smith was going to get a kick out of that too. So it was. Anyhow, Eagles big win, and now they have a little extra time off before next Sunday again a home game against the Jets. And look, you got to get that one, okay? Because now you have some momentum. The last thing you want to do is go into that game, a winnable game against the Jets, and who knows what the Jets are going to be, if Darnold's going to play that game or not. It's still a winnable game at home against an inferior opponent, and you should have beaten the Lions a couple weeks ago. Got to get this win against the Jets. Got to keep this thing going. Now you're above 500. You get that win. You got a 3-game road trip after that. Okay, at Minnesota, at Dallas on prime time, and then at the Bills, who are an improved team this season. And we'll see how they fare against the Patriots this weekend, but an improved team. So you got 3 tough road games. You are coming off a tough road win. So now you got to beat the Jets at home. Take care of that home field. Beat the Jets. And then see what happens on the road when you take on, it starts at the building. The last time the Eagles were in, they got a win in Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota. So, yeah, they like that stadium. Anyhow, that's going to do it for me for the breakdown of the game. Eagles, again, 34-27 winners at Lambeau Field. The Cheesesteaks beat the Cheeseheads in that game, and they improved their record to even it up anyhow at 2-2. Little time off before next Sunday, 1 o'clock game against those New York Jets. We'll see what their record is. They could be 0-4 coming into that game, so we'll see. Hopefully the Eagles don't allow them to get their first win of the season. That wouldn't be very good if they are 0-4 coming into that game. Anyhow, obviously Festive did not make the trip here. Don't have Festive, but Festive wanted to make sure that you all are aware that it is, even though Festive isn't present here, it is still the Festive 4, so let's get to it. All right, this week's Festive 4. Festive made sure that I took this list with me before I left today. And here it is, the 4 winners that Festive feels for this weekend's games are going to be winners. Again, the point spreads, and we don't care about that. It's just pure winners. And here we go. So far, Festive is 9-3. Festive has been nothing but consistent since the start of this, going 3-1 the last 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks, 3-1, 9-3 overall. Trying to get the double digits this week. So let's see. Festive, first of all, likes the Bears over the Vikings this week. That's the first game, so likes the Bears. The second game of the Festive 4 likes Baltimore to beat Cleveland. Second pick there. Third pick, the Kansas City Chiefs over the team to beat the Eagles last week. Detroit likes Festive to give Detroit their first loss of the season. Remember, they tied the first game, so they have yet to get a loss, but Festive feels this will be the week they get the loss. And finally, Festive believes, as I believe, that the Rams are going to beat Tampa Bay. And I did pick the Rams in Glenn Macnow's suicide pool this week to get the win after I'm up to week 4. This is whole new territory for me. A year ago, I lost in week 1. I was out in week 1. So getting to week 4, hey, I almost made it to October, okay? I almost made it through a month. So come on, Rams. And the Bucs got me last year. They beat the Saints in week 1 in New Orleans. So I'm hoping that that the history doesn't repeat this time in LA at the Coliseum. But Festive and I both like the Rams over the Tampa Bay non-wearing creamsicles anymore. Buccaneers, they should wear them more. They really should. Those are still, I know they're hideous, but they're hot jerseys. Anyhow, again, the recap for the Festive Four: Bears over Vikings, Baltimore over Cleveland, Kansas City over Detroit, and the Rams over the Bucks. That's the Festive Four. And that's going to do it for the Festive Four. That's going to do it for this vid. Thanks for watching as always. Oh my God, I made it under 30 minutes this time. Woo! Some of you are like, you should be at your dad's house more often. Anyhow, great Eagles win 34-27 against those Packers. 2-2, hoping to go to 3-2 next Sunday against the Jets. And I will break it down, probably make a video sometime before the game. If anything else, you'll see me certainly after the game. And as always, let's go Birds! Big win this past Thursday night, primetime television. Eagles got the job done and kicked off week 4 with a huge win at Lambeau. And great to see. Keep it going, guys. And to all Eagles Nation, you all take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Fly, Eagles, fly. Festive and I would like to remind you, if you enjoyed the content of this video, and why wouldn't you have? It's a wonderful channel. Go ahead and leave that like, comment below, because, you know, we always enjoy communicating. And go ahead and subscribe. And why wouldn't you subscribe? You know, because Festive has ways of finding people if they don't. Just saying. But anyhow, go ahead and subscribe. And once you do subscribe, make sure to click that bell icon. That way then you'll be alerted to any new content from this channel. And you do want to be alerted, because why wouldn't you? So anyhow, enjoy the contents to come from this channel, and go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, click bell icon, all the stuff that, you know, you should be doing, because if you're on YouTube, you should be doing it. So go ahead and do it, and enjoy the YouTube-ness out there. Did that work? Hopefully. Spike the ball. No? Doesn't feel like it.